Hello everyone. Today we will discuss the concept of prototype in the subject semantics. So let's learn what is a prototype. Definition. A prototype of a predicate is an object which is held to be very typical of the kind of object which can be referred to by an expression containing the predicate. So we will have several objects, and among those objects one would be very typical, and that typical object would be our prototype. For example, if I say that a man, so a man is in different shape or a man is in different size, right? So we would have a particular type of man in our mind. So that would be the prototype of man. Or if I say a chair, so a chair comes in different shapes or in different size or in different colors. So one of the chair that would be very typical, and that typical chair would be our prototype. So we will discuss this concept in detail on coming slide. You don't have to be worried right now, right? So this prototype, it is referred to by an expression containing the predicate. In other words, the prototype of a predicate can be thought of as the most typical member of the extension of a predicate. For example, if I say tree, so what kind of tree comes in your mind? So that would be the prototype of tree, because tree comes in different shapes, in different size, in different colors, right? So what is the most commonest tree, right? So that would come in your mind. So the prototype, it varies culture to culture, society to society, and area to area, geography to geography. Because what is the prototype of a tree for me in Pakistan would be different for a tree, the person who lives in Saudi Arabia or in Middle East countries, because a typical tree in Middle East countries would be different than a typical tree in Pakistan or a typical tree in India or a typical tree in America. So it varies culture to cultures and geography to geography. Similarly, that if I say a bird, so in Pakistan, like a type or typical bird would come in my mind. So that would be the prototype of a bird. We have birds in different shapes, or there are varieties of bird. So one of the bird that would be the commonest one, and that commonest bird would be the prototype of a bird. So that prototype in India, in America, in England, in Japan, in Bangladesh, and different parts of the world would be different, right? Or if I say like a bus, so the prototype of a bus in Pakistan is different, while in other countries that would be different. So what is the prototype? A prototype is a very typical of the kind of object which can be referred to by an expression containing the predicate. So we express or we refer to this prototype by a particular expression, right? So we will discuss this further on coming slides. Examples of prototype. We can see here some example. Okay, so a man of medium height and average build, between 30 and 50 years old, with brownish hair, with no particularly distinctive characteristics or defects, could be a prototype of a predicate man in certain area of the world, right? So like a bodybuilder person is not the prototype of a man, or the person who is very tall, who is like 6 feet or 7 feet tall, is not the prototype of a man. Or we can't say that a person who is very thin is not the prototype of a man. So we would see that what is the most typical. So typical would be that he would be a medium height, right? An average build, not a bodybuilder, not a very thin. And age would be between 30 and 50 years old, with brownish hair, right? With no particularly distinctive characteristics or defects. If a person has some physical defects, so that would not be the prototype of a man. Could be a prototype of a predicate man in certain areas of the world. Like in Japan, might be okay, we can't say that a medium height. because the medium height in Japan would be different, or in China would be different, right? Compared to like some African countries would be different. So we say that in certain parts of the world we have the prototype of a man that would be of a medium height or average build between 30 and 50 years old, on brownish hair without any physical defects, right? Similarly, that a dwarf or a hugely muscular bodybuilder could not be a prototype of a predicate man. So when we say that a man, so a bodybuilder person, right, who is very heavy or who has a very strong muscular body would not be the prototype of a man, right? So because a bodybuilder is not like the commonest object or the commonest person, right? So we would see that what is the most typical in that class. You can't say, because if you want to take out a prototype, so you will see that from the same class you will pick a prototype. If for example we say that animal from animal, on then within animal we have like a horse, we have like a donkey, we have like a dog, we have like cat. So then we have a particular shape of the cat, dog in our mind, so that would be the predicate of that particular animal. Same is here also with a man. Now we have some practice here. For each of the drawing 1 to 7, say whether the object shown could be a prototype of a predicate given below it for an average person living in Europe or in North America. So we would now think about this, whether they are the prototype of like a prototype of the predicate we will have, okay, of an average person, like wherever you belong, whether they are a prototype for you or not. Let's see that we have a bird, right? This bird is a prototype or not? Yes, for certain part of the world. Or we can say that for an average person, when we say a bird, so this bird comes in mind. So this is the prototype of a bird. What about this one, number 2? Of course it's not, because whenever somebody utters the word bird, so this bird doesn't come in your mind. This bird comes in your mind. So number 1 is a prototype of a bird for like an average person, but not this one. Neither this one. When we think about a bird, so this bird doesn't come in our mind, right? Similarly, that house and house, in these two houses, which one is the prototype of a house? Of course, for certain person, this would be the prototype of a house when we think about a house, not this one, right? Because this is not the common one, while this is the common one. Similarly, that when we think about a tree, so 6 number is the prototype of a tree, not the 7 one. Like in some countries might be that the 7 one is the prototype of a tree. In some countries, but in most parts of the world we see that this tree is the prototype of a tree. So number 1, this is a prototype. Number 2, not. Number 3, not. Number 4, yes. Number 5, not. Number 6, yes. Number 7, not. But it depends culture, it depends on geography, it depends on country to country. Some parts of the world, maybe this is the prototype, or this is the prototype, or this is the prototype, or this is the prototype. But we are talking about for average person. For most people, this is the prototype, this is the prototype, and this is the prototype of these objects. I hope you got it. Next one. Comment. Since we are not especially interested in the language of any one individual, but rather in, say, English as a whole, we will talk in terms of shared prototype. Like for example, objects on which there would be a general agreement that they were typical example of the class of object, right? Where people agree, because people agree that this is the prototype of a bird in English language. This is the prototype of a house, right? So we will talk about what is the agreement. And this is okay, belong to the same class of the object. Talking about birds, talking about trees, talking about man, talking about girl, talking about chairs, talking about table, talking about flowers, right? So we are here described by certain predicate in a language. Now, community as wide as that of English. So there are problems with the idea of prototype due to the cultural differences between various English-speaking communities. Consider these examples. Practice, for example, could a double-decker bus of the kind found in British cities be a prototype for the predicate bus for a British English speaker? Yes or no? What do you think of this? So, of course, that this double-decker bus would be a prototype of the bus. Could a double-decker bus of the kind found in British city, because we found double-decker in British city, be a prototype for the predicate bus for a British English speaker? Of course it is. But this double-decker bus would not be the prototype of bus for American person who is speaking English. Now, second, could such a bus be a prototype for the predicate bus for an American English speaking? Not at all. Because in America, the prototype of a bus would be different. Because I told that it varies culture to culture and country to country. In somewhere it would be prototype, while in other place it would not be. Because like most of the people agree in America on the prototype of a bus would be different. And most of the people agree, or the general agreement, when they hear or when they listen the word bus, so a double-decker bus come in their mind, right? 3. Could a skyscraper be a prototype for the predicate building for an inhabitant of New York City? Of course, because the person is living in New York. And if you utter the word like a building, right? So could a skyscraper or be a prototype for the predicate building for an inhabitant in America, or who's living in New York, because in New York cities we have very large buildings. So if a person is the inhabitant of New York and you say that a building, so what comes, a building comes in mind, that would be a skyscraper. But if you come to Pakistan, or if you come to like India or some other parts of the world, so you would not have like skyscraper buildings, okay? Or a skyscraper building would not be the prototype for a building, right? Now, could a skyscraper be a prototype for the predicate building for someone who had spent his life in Britain outside London? Not at all. In London, a skyscraper cannot be a prototype of the building, right? For the predicate building for someone who has spent most of his time in Britain but outside London. In London, we may have like building. When you say building, so what comes in mind? A skyscraper. But a person who spent most of his life outside of the city of London, so the building, when you say building, so a skyscraper would not come in his mind or in her mind. So here we would not have like a prototype of a building like skyscraper. Number 5. Could a palm tree like that picture in particular above be a prototype for someone who has lived since birth on the tropical island, say in Hawaii? So what do you think? Because as we discuss here that number 7 is not the prototype of a tree, but the person who has spent most of his life in island. You can see that tropical island. So for him or for her, okay, that this would be the prototype of a tree. This would be the prototype of a tree. Similarly, that who are living in Middle East country like Saudi Arabia, Dubai, right, Egypt. So this would be the prototype of a tree. It varies culture to culture and country to country. Okay, 6th number. Could a parrot or other similar large, brightly colored bird be a prototype for someone who has lived her life in the rainforest? Of course, right? As we learned on the previous slide, that a parrot cannot be the prototype of a bird. But the person who has spent his entire life or most part of his life in the rainforest. So for him or for her, the prototype of a bird would be a carrot, right? So that was all about prototype. I hope you got it that what is a prototype. So please don't forget to subscribe and like the channel, and please provide your valuable comment. Thank you so much.